Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Before I crack on with today's video, for those that may have missed it, the next week's special has been announced, and the Sisters of Battle are coming. So after our discussion regarding Belisarius Cawl and his unveiling of the Primaris project, I thought it would be interesting to have some speculation regarding his other projects. Now obviously this is just a theory video, with me speculating on possible projects that Cawl was set by Guilliman himself at the end of the heresy. Before I go any further, I am very pleased to say that today's video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Now Raid Shadow Legends is an immensely popular RPG, available on both mobile platforms as well as for PC gamers. So it's got us all covered. And when I say popular, I'm not joking. It has had over 25 million downloads and over 1 million active players every day. And honestly, it's no surprise as it's so easy to get started. You just download and jump straight in. Everything is laid out easy to understand, enabling you to enjoy the action straight from the get-go, and even better, collecting rewards along the way. Now if you want to play alone, you can, but where Raid Shadow Legends really shines is its active community. There's over 216,000 clans that have been created, an active Reddit community with over 40,000 members and still growing, a massive Twitch following with over 56,000 streamers. And finally, Raid just released a huge champion update, tweaking and rebalancing over 20 different champions to make PvP arena battles even more competitive. And if that's not enough, the Forge just came out, so now you can save time and start crafting top quality artifacts and competing right away. So what are you waiting for? Download Raid Shadow Legends using the links below in the description, and if you're a new player, you can get an exclusive welcome pack that contains 50,000 silver, 50 gems, 5 mystery shards, 1 energy refill, 1 day XP boost, 1 clan boss key, and a free awesome champion shaman. You will find your extra rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. But don't forget you need to use the link. But back to today's video. General spoiler warning to begin, we will be discussing lore from across the Warhammer 40k universe. So you have been warned. Okay, so when Guilliman set Cawl the task of improving upon the Space Marines, he also apparently set him other projects. Or at least that's what I inferred by his comment to Captain Messinius of the White Consoles. The Primaris initiative is only one of his projects, some others of which are of similar scale, but although I have little reason to doubt his sincere desire to follow my plans, he has designs of his own. So obviously, while maybe not explicitly stated, it certainly reads to me that Guilliman could have set other tasks for Cawl to be working on, as well as referring to his own personal objectives, because Guilliman is fully aware he has his own plans too. His interest in Necron tech and Blackstone, for example, is definitely something I'd class as his own interest. Yes, it's with the intention of saving the Imperium, but it's not something Guilliman set him, at least not in my mind. So the question is, what else could Guilliman have tasked Cawl with? Well, some are equal to the Primaris initiative, and some are not. Well, the biggest and most logical thing that I can think of first is healing the Emperor. Cue your best Belisarius Dr. McCoy impression. Damn it, Rabute, I'm a tech priest, not a miracle worker. But the truth is, if Cawl was given access to something as sensitive as the remnants of the Primarch project, to experiment with the Legion gene seed, What really remains that could rival that in importance? The Emperor of Mankind. Now, I'm not saying Cawl was allowed to experiment on the Emperor. Of course not. But like he crafted the life-sustaining armour of fate for Rabute, it seems only logical to me that Guilliman would at least have the theoretical conversation. Now, like I said, even Cawl wouldn't be allowed free reign in the throne room, but I can see data being provided to him, or him being allowed in under custody supervision, to collect all the information he needed, then conduct his research elsewhere. Now, if this was ever revealed, do I think it could be achieved? No. But can you imagine it? The Emperor would quite literally become a machine god. Now, while that may be an interesting theory, it's probably not one of the more likely. And on the topic of the Emperor, there's another possibility that makes much more sense to me. That Cawl was tasked with replacing the Astronomicon. Let's make no bones about it. Things could not have looked bleaker at the end of the heresy. And with the Emperor being placed into the throne and becoming silent thereafter, Guilliman of all the living Primarchs would have undoubtedly begun working on a contingency plan for the worst. Now we know the amount of psychers that are fed into the Astronomicon, so Cawl finding a power source to duplicate that is unlikely. But Guilliman does have experience of the Pharos beacon. Could he have tasked Cawl with building his own versions? We know eventually Cawl will investigate this some 10,000 years later, with the desire to close the Great Rift. But could he originally have been looking into them for a different purpose? To cover the Imperium in Cawl-designed Pharos beacons, keeping warp travel possible should the worst come to the worst. It certainly would have made sense for a planner such as Guilliman, who always poses the theoretical. This is the Primarch who had plans how to take down every one of his brothers, and that was before the heresy. Next theory, curing the gene seed. Now, out of all of them, this is definitely the most odds-on, because it was almost confirmed with the Primaris project. But I believe this was definitely something Guilliman tasked Cawl with. And the reason I say that is because Cawl tells Guilliman he's come to the conclusion that the Emperor intended them all to be the way they are. The ferocity of the wolves, the rage of the angels. The Emperor intended them to be exactly that way. And Cawl wouldn't likely state that unless it was something that he'd been directly instructed to look into. There's also the strange claim of the Primaris being more loyal. How he knows or achieved that, only he knows. But you would assume it must have involved gene seed. Personally, I think that could well lay the foundations of traitor gene seed Primaris. So I think we will definitely see more hints in the future to come. That Cawl may be tinkered a little too far, believing that they can't possibly fall now, in his overwhelming arrogance, which could be a fantastic future storyline. Fixing the Golden Throne. Now obviously this one is something that would have occurred after Guilliman's return to the Imperium, and I find it hard to believe he wouldn't have been informed of the Golden Throne's issues, if he even needed to be. In the 10,000 years since he last visited the throne room, the throne would have grown from a huge throne to a gargantuan machined mess, where you can barely even glimpse the body of the Emperor. Much like before, he may have tasked Cawl with healing or resurrecting the Emperor with his own version of the Armour of Fate. Coming back and seeing this mess, he would have surely tasked Cawl with fixing it, if he could. And again, the same logic applies. Guilliman trusts Cawl, but only as much as he trusts anyone. We're not talking Cawl roaming about in the throne room, pulling out wires and cables wherever he wants. It would have to be remote research with transmitted data, until he developed a viable plan. And it would have to be something that Guilliman and Trajan Valoris were in approval of, before there was any chance of it being implemented. And those are really the most realistic things I could have seen Cawl's mind being tasked to, at least that rival the Primaris project in scale. Of course, in the world of theory, you could easily dive into the more outlandish, such as resurrecting the other Primarchs to tracking the Lost Brothers, but I don't really see Guilliman contemplating these things, or them being remotely possible. Of course, as we mentioned, the big project Cawl is working on involves the Necrons and their works with the Blackstone, using its anti-warp properties across the galaxy to heal the Great Rift. And I don't think it's stated anywhere that this is something Guilliman tasked him on, but it's certainly something he'd support. The Rift has literally torn the Imperium in half, and left half of humanity at the mercy of the ruinous powers. Having Cawl working on fixing this is absolutely worthwhile, if more than a little risky. I think it's only a matter of time until Cawl comes face to face with a certain Silent King, and that is definitely something I'm looking forward to. And I think Belisarius may be too. But as always guys, what do you think? Do you think Guilliman could have tasked Cawl with extra projects? If so, what could they have been? Or is Cawl only following his own plans, and Guilliman is just giving him free rein to do so? As always, drop your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support really means a lot to me, it truly does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.